Teresa sang that song yesterday, and I said, you know, Teresa, you can do that again. You know, it's really wonderful. You get tired, Zippy? You sitting down for a while? Yeah. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Connie Boland. I came up with the idea for a Warbirds in Review 20 plus years ago and had no idea it would come to this. So I thank all of you for your support of the program and being here and sitting in the bleachers. I keep working on shade, but I haven't quite gotten there yet. So thank you for sitting in the sun. But these programs I hope will all be well worthwhile for you. It is my pleasure to be here to present the programs, to open the programs, and to thank our sponsors, which include ScottsMiracle-Gro Company, Jim Hagedorn, who's been a fellow pilot, fellow Warbird member and supporter for years. The ScottsMiracle-Gro Company, at Jim's urging, has been our sustaining sponsor. To Ron and Diane Fagen, who were on an earlier program today, they have done so much to contribute to the Warbird community, and part of that is to provide the building behind us that gives us our production crew somewhere really nice to work. I wonder if we have a shot of the production crew. I didn't warn them I wanted to do this, so maybe I can see them. You can see where they work back there. The equipment, the Sleeping Dog Productions and all the professionals they bring in. A round of applause for Sleeping Dog and Air to Air. We thank them very much. And the young lady that runs around, well, she's over here with her hands on her hips. Kyle, turn around, please. And ladies and gentlemen, the person who does all the behind-the-scenes work and makes us all look good, keeps us in order, and does the research, Kyle, I can't thank you enough. She does an amazing amount of work for me, so and for all of us. We see the results of it. Today's program, our moderator for several years now has been Brigadier General retired Ed McElhenney. He will be our moderator again today. He will introduce our guests for this beautiful airplane, Shillelagh. And again, back to the Sleeping Dog Productions Air to Air TV. They produced this video that tells you a little bit about the upcoming program. So I'll toss it over to the video. Enjoy the show. Thank you very much.
In the summer of 1944, the skies over Europe were filled with the roar of a new kind of fighter, the North American P-51B model Mustang. Fast, long-legged, deadly. Among the first American units to take the Mustang into combat was the 353rd Fighter Squadron of the 354th Fighter Group, the Pioneer Mustang Group. Their mission was simple, but dangerous. Escort bombers deep into enemy territory, hunt German fighters, and strike targets across occupied Europe. Within the squadron, one aircraft would become part of their legend, a P-51B Mustang with the name Shillelagh. Named after the Irish Fighting Club, the aircraft carried the spirit of its pilot, Lieutenant David O'Hara. For O'Hara, Shillelagh became more than just another airplane. He flew nearly 50 combat missions in the Mustang, escorting bombers, strafing enemy airfields, and battling the Luftwaffe across France and Germany. But in war, aircraft rarely belonged to just one man. Shillelagh would be flown by many pilots of the 353rd Fighter Squadron. A Among them was a young fighter ace named Lieutenant Kenneth H. Dahlberg. Dahlberg was already a veteran of countless aerial battles. By the summer of 1944, he had become one of the squadron's most dangerous pilots, aggressive, fearless, and deadly in the air. On August 16, 1944, Dahlberg climbed into the cockpit of O'Hara's Mustang. His mission would become one of the most dramatic fights the squadron would ever face. Soon after takeoff, a formation of American Mustangs encountered a massive force of German fighters over France. Dozens of Messerschmitts and Focke-Wulfs swarmed the sky. Outnumbered, the Mustangs dove into battle. In the chaos of the dogfight, Dahlberg attacked again and again, shooting down 3 German aircraft. But victory came at a price. Enemy fire tore into Shillelagh, damaging the engine and draining its oil. With the Mustang failing beneath him, Dahlberg climbed into the clouds and bailed out over France. Shillelagh fell from the sky after 95 combat missions. But the story of the aircraft and the pilots who flew her did not end there. The men of the 353rd Fighter Squadron would continue their fight across Europe, and the legend of a Mustang called Shillelagh would live on.
All righty. Follow me.
That was a nice intro.
Feel like I'm herding cats here today. Yeah.
Meow.
How many we got up here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, okay. A couple guys are going out. Oh, there we go. We got 3 chairs up front, please. Yep. And then the rest of you gentlemen. Oh, we got an extra chair here. Well, in fact, I might sit down. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Ed McElhenney. I guess the primary moderator, but I'm trying to bring someone in my shadow over here on the left, and I'll introduce him in a minute. But the rest of the people that are here, I'll start from the end, Warren Peach, and we're going to run out of time. I can tell you that right now. And he just said, just call me a pilot, okay? So Warren's a pilot, okay? Bruce Eames, I'm just going to call you an expert, okay? An expert. So he's another expert, okay? And then this guy over here, Patrick O'Hara, and you might recognize that name. Yeah, he's related. His dad was the guy who flew this airplane. So those are the 3 guys we got here. And at the end, down there, Alex Fifinsky, Colonel, United States Air Force, retired. And as I said, he's kind of in my shadow right now, and we're going to try to get him do a little bit of the hard work here this afternoon and talk to these folks. Nice airplane. If you were here this morning, you probably saw a real shiny P-51. Okay, that was Jane 6. And you'll look at this and go, well, this one's not so shiny. So there's a story there, and these guys are going to bring that story out. And Alex, I'm going to turn it over to you right now and let you get this show on the road.
Well, again, I appreciate being here and this amazing opportunity, but you don't want to hear from me, so I'm just going to turn it over to Bruce. So tell us a little bit about what's going on here, why we're all here, and why this airplane's here today.
Oh, well, that's the short story of it is that I'm, like many of you here in the audience, was of that generation whose fathers were in World War II. And so grew up with the stories of and inspired by those and what they went through. And so I finally found myself at one point in my life being successful enough in business that I could actually start participating in bringing some of these planes back to life and help tell the stories of what these planes represent. And so Shillelagh is just the most current one. And one of the things that we wanted to do with this was, after restoring a number of planes and bringing them here, some of you have seen them, really wanted to rather than bringing in a shiny, polished, beautiful plane like it just came out of a showroom, try to honor the fact that the guys that were flying these things, and that's what's important about the planes, is the stories of the people that were involved with these planes, what these planes went through. And like this thing, 95 missions. This thing was war-weary and beat to hell. And we wanted to start showing a little bit what these planes look like when these guys are flying them. And so we tried to achieve that with Shillelagh and have that reflect a little bit what these guys were experiencing. And so that's how we came to bring this plane here.
We need to make mention too. You've heard several pronunciations on what to really call this. What is the correct pronunciation? And I'll ask Patrick that question. Go ahead, Patrick.
It's always been pronounced Shillelagh, you know, from my memory. This particular Shillelagh is probably about 150 years old. It belonged to my great-grandfather, who was from Belfast. He served in the British Army in the Boer War. And then it was passed down to my grandfather, who served in the British Army in a artillery unit. He was wounded in Ypres. And as a result of that, he met my grandmother, who was a British Army nurse who came from Scotland. And finally, you know, down to my father through the generations, and as you can see, they were all fairly pugnacious. My grandfather was a prize fighter when he immigrated to the United States, and so typically Irish. What can I say?
and it's officially a war club, isn't it? The definition of a Shillelagh
serves a dual purpose. It can be a walking stick, or if things don't go right in the pub, you can use it as a cudgel.
There you go. Okay, and so that's what this airplane is named after. Okay, go ahead, Alex.
Yeah, so that's a little different than a lot of the P-51s we see. We see a lot named after girlfriends, mothers, wives. Why Shillelagh?
Okay, well, I can explain that. Now, he couldn't name the airplane after a girlfriend or a wife or whatever, because his poor crew chief would be erasing it and changing it every couple of weeks. You know, I mean, these guys were fairly popular, if you know what I mean. And then there were the fellows that had the pinup girls on the fuselage. I'm sure you've seen that. Well, my grandmother, the Army nurse, British Army nurse, grew up with 7 brothers. She was the only girl. She would not have tolerated that for a minute. You could not say any foul language around her or anything of the sort, so that wouldn't fly. So Shillelagh was a fairly safe bet then. And then the spelling, I think Dad threw his crew chief under the bus on that one. Said Fred Osborne was his crew chief. There were 2 brothers, Fred and Earl Osborne from Oklahoma. And Fred worked on it principally. I think Earl worked on it sometimes. And these guys were typically the fellows that would do all the painting on the planes, the nose art or the invasion stripes that you see on this particular model. But they said, Fred, we're going to call it Shillelagh. He said, okay. Hey, Earl, how do you spell Shillelagh? I don't know. Try Shillelagh. Yeah, that sounds close enough. Yeah. So they tried 3 times on 3 different airplanes. It was different each time, but I think they finally got it right about the 4th time around. But probably kept the Germans confused, too. What's a Shillelagh? I don't know, but we better find out. It keeps shooting down our airplanes.
How about the longevity of this airplane? How many missions did it fly?
95 missions.
Okay.
Yeah.
And this is in a wartime type situation, and so a tremendously reliable airplane at this point. Didn't get shot down for a little while, I guess, huh?
Yeah, on the other hand, it's a real testament to the fact that it's not just the pilot that was making these planes successful. It was a crew that just did phenomenal jobs maintaining these things. And in fact, the crew that took care of Shillelagh was actually mentioned during the war as being like a standout crew in maintaining this plane. It was acknowledged at the time. So it's really a a testament to those guys that kept these things flying.
And we're both here sitting
Yeah,
there
we're both
saying,
here
hey,
saying the same
you
thing.
know,
Like,
we've
I
flown
heard
airplanes.
this amazing stat. Like, how many aborts did it have? It was very, very few. It was single digits over its lifespan, if that's correct.
Something like that, yeah. I don't have the exact number. Chuck Cravens, the Air Corps aviation historian, probably has that number.
It was scheduled for 99. It aborted 4 times, and so it completed 95. And imagine if we could have that state of readiness in current fighter squadrons, they'd be thrilled.
Yeah, it would be a complete game changer.
Yeah.
Dispatch reliability.
Yeah.
The crew is.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep. How about acquisition of this airplane? Who wants to talk about that? How'd you guys end up with this thing?
Well, there's a couple different stages, but it really started with Air Corps Aviation, and to pay tribute to Paul Allen and Jack Larson, who were the ones that really initiated the recovery of Shillelagh out of the French estate, where both Shillelagh and Ken Dahlberg went down on.
Hold that thought. Can I talk to a guy out in the audience here named Max? Okay.
Yes, bring him over here.
Yeah, and this
Max,
is just a
come on
quick
up.
side note, if you will. And thank you, Max, by the way, for the nice shirt. Barnstormers, by the way. Barnstormers, that's where he is, just down the tent here. And beautiful shirts. And but Max has got a story that you're just not going to believe. Go ahead, Max.
Hello.
Yeah,
Hello,
there you go.
everybody. So maybe sorry for my English. As you say, I'm from France.
Max is France. Yep. We're rooting for you. World Cup didn't quite make it.
That's not a Texas accent, too, just for anyone wondering. Yeah.
So, as a young retired captain from French Air Force, and less than three months ago, Chuck and the amazing team of the Dakota Territory Museum and Air Corps, we are close friends now, told me that Shillelagh will be probably ready for Oshkosh. So we start to talk with Chuck about this amazing aircraft. Chuck sent me a lot of pictures of the aircraft, a lot of documents, and inside all these documents there is an old black and white picture of a castle. So as you can imagine, we have plenty of castle in France, but I don't know why this castle sounds familiar to me. So this is the castle that you have on the big screen. So when I see this black and white picture, I say to Chuck, you know what, tomorrow I have an instruction flight with a young co-pilot, and I'm going to have a look at something. So the next day I take the helicopters, thanks to French Air Force, and I fly 15 minutes south of Paris, which is an area that I fly during almost 20 years there. And I found the castle, so I look at the castle. For the little story, my co-pilot say, "What are you doing with the picture you take?" And I say, "Don't worry, go this way." So I spot the castle, take plenty of picture, and when I was flying, I sent a text to another French friend, Xavier. I told him, you told me that you went a few years ago to a farm south of Paris where the Shillelagh probably crash site, and he was online, so he said, yeah. I say, could you send me the Google points of this farm? So after the castle, I went through the farm. We take plenty of pictures of the historical crash sheets. Just, I used to fly, I told you, 20 years old, during 20 years above this area, so to be linked to that incredible guys, incredible story, so that's
It is amazing, and to find, that you're flying over that on a regular basis, and you were right there.
5 times a week.
Yeah, amazing. I mean, okay, sorry to interrupt.
No, the
Go
great
ahead.
thing about this picture is in the picture, you see not only the original French castle that's still there, you see the pond that Ken Dahlberg hid in with the reeds.
A lot of people don't know that. No, but tell that story,
Yeah,
though.
that's
Yeah.
the story.
We need to hear that.
You can see all of that in that scene. And you can even see the spot where Shillelagh drilled into the ground in that picture. Still, yeah.
Yeah, but then he had to hide, right? I mean,
He had to hide, yeah. And the French family, of course, again, Chuck Cravens with Aircorps Aviation, the historian, can tell the story better than I can, but they protected him and hid him and from the Germans.
Yeah, so Dahlberg doesn't sound like a good Irish name.
No.
So how did Dahlberg get in O'Hara's airplane? Let's start
Chuck,
back at the beginning here.
Give us that story,
give
Chuck.
Give us the story on that day, that from getting in the airplane to sitting on the bottom of the lake, breathing through a reed.
Yeah.
Is this on?
Yep, it's on.
Dahlberg returned from leave and dressed as he would be in leave with standard dress shirts, possibly the pink slacks and so forth, but certainly not a flight suit. He did not have a sidearm. He didn't have any of the gear that you would use normally, and he just happened to arrive just before a mission was going to take off.
He was wearing his custom-made shoes that he had just bought, too, as I recall.
Something like that. And he,
or to be on leave in London, right?
Yeah.
right. And so he arrives back, and they had just moved to a new base, so it was a new base to him. And a mission was going to go out, and one of the pilots came up sick, and he just said, "Yeah, I'll go." So he jumped in this Mustang, and there's a misconception that once somebody gets assigned a Mustang, they're the only person that flies it. And as we mentioned, 20 people flew this one. And so he gets in the airplane and then takes off with the flight, and they were notified that there was a flight of Messerschmitts, and it's not really clear if they're 190s or Messerschmitts, but like 20 of them. So they went to this, they were over Dreux, France, which is close to Paris, and they went to attack them, and just as they did, another 60 came out of the clouds, and it was kind of, So they tangled up, and Ken Dahlberg shot down 2 before being hit in an oil line or the oil cooler, I'm not sure. And he knew it was going to seize up, so he went into a cloud, and as he was going to the cloud, another 109 passed in front of him. And his windshield's covered with oil, his gun sight's not working, so he aimed via the tracers and got his third, which happened to make him an ace that day. But he's on his way down, and I always say that he was maybe the smartest guy to get shot down because he landed on the richest man in Paris's estate. right close to his wife, he almost hit her. And at the time, there were German pilots coming down in parachutes and stuff. So first he had to convince her that he was friendly. And she said, "We need to hide you. There's Germans here," because they were still in German-occupied France. And so she sent him to the pond. And the story is later on, the Germans were getting close to the pond, and he broke off a reed and submerged and breathed through it. Then he stayed in a log building, and they were friendly with the French resistance, and they told him, "We're going to take care of you." And he was there for a couple of days, and then they took him out via bicycle, told him, "Don't open your mouth. We're going to act like you're really dumb," because he didn't know a word of French. And they knew they'd passed German patrols. And it ended up being about a 40-mile ride before they found Americans, but you have to appreciate the risk. The risk to the French people was they'd be shot instantly for helping an American, and for Ken Dahlberg, he was not in uniform. He'd be shot as a spy. But luckily, they pulled it off, and that's kind of the story of that.
Yeah, he's still wearing his dress shoes, right? He still had his dress shoes.
So he parachutes, and he ends up going in a pond with his dress shoes and his clean pants and all of that.
Yeah, he had no survival equipment, no pistol, nothing from that night.
Yeah. All right, where do we go next? Let's see.
I think we have one gentleman who hasn't spoken all yet. Warren, what would you like to add to this story right now?
Wait, first, Warren, when was the airplane completed? How long ago the restoration? You know, like last...
We test flew it Thursday night.
That's what I thought.
I was going to be the dumb guy so I could escape.
Never.
Yeah, there's, as I sit here and listen to this, there's so many things that I don't think are totally coincidence, but they seem like coincidence when you talk about Max's common missions with his helicopter over the top of the estate where this airplane ended up crashing, and the Badon family, is that how you pronounce it? Badon family? I happened to marry a girl that her maiden name was Bedoin. It was only missing the E on the whole thing, but I look at that and then I think about the purpose of a shillelagh, and I think about your dad telling the other guys that were borrowing his airplane, go take the shillelagh to him. You know? And maybe some of you have heard that term from your folks, I don't know, but my dad used to say it fairly often, was, I'm going to take the shillelagh to you, which was like getting a whipping. But, you know, the airplane is a magnificent restoration. Air Corps did it one more time, and it's a few people have asked me how it flies, and my common response has been it flies a lot better than it looks. But it was made to look bad, you know. But it was also made to fly really good, and it does. It flies wonderful. I just met Patrick yesterday morning, and his stories are fantastic. He grew up with a father that was in the service for 33 years, and he grew up on different bases, including Edwards Air Force Base, with lots of stories. So you've got one guy that flew this airplane that had a successful Air Force career and retired out of it, and then Ken Dahlberg went on to an extremely successful civilian life. And some of you are familiar with Miracle Air. I guess I should be. That's what my wife keeps telling me. I should be some of them. But there's, you know, so Ken Dahlberg was a very successful businessman, and was, if you get a chance to read his book, One Step Forward, I met him a couple times, but I never got to know him. I wish I would have. And so he was apparently always very upbeat and very going forward. One of the things that he said that struck me, his son wrote the lead-in for the build book for Air Corps, and one of the statements he said his dad used to tell him is, you can't fall out of a basement. In other words, if you're at the bottom, you can't go much lower, so just go up from there. But it's just a couple of pretty interesting greatest generation individuals who flew this airplane, and the commonality that it brings together with all those personalities and people. And then the story, and I was told I can't tell it, but you'll read about it if you read the book. But there's more to the civilian clothes story.
Oh yeah.
than what you've heard so far, and so it's a very interesting story. I can't think of much else to say, but that's it.
Yeah, can we talk a little bit about the rediscovery of the aircraft, modern day, and then the recovery and the challenges of COVID and getting the airplane back, and then evolving into this?
Eric Trueblood, by the way, works for Air Corps, and I think you're on now.
Yeah, we're on.
Yep, you're on. Okay.
Well, the Dahlberg was a storyteller that could really rapture a crowd, and we had done an airplane to help a collector. It was painted up as one of Dahlberg's airplanes that he flew. It's now at Dakota Territory, named Little Horse, and there was a going away party for that airplane, and Dahlberg told the story about the wrecking of this airplane, and how through saving him and helping him evade the Germans, he had become very close friends with the family. Dahlberg visited them annually. They owned neighboring properties in Boca Raton. They bonded through a rare interaction in life, and he said, you guys should go dig that airplane up. And it stoked a bit of curiosity, and so we were over there bringing back what would become Thunderbird for Warren Peach, and had the opportunity. Eric Kokoff and we went out to the site. Rosine walked us right out to where the airplane was buried, and scratching with our hands in the dirt in the winter, we were finding P-51 parts almost immediately. And so the dig commenced. COVID threw it off. A great deal of gratitude to Xavier Meal and the Baudouin family for coordinating that excavation because the property has since been sold, and we were able to excavate the airplane. One thing that is, you know, $1 million question, or the question on everybody's mind, is how much of what you dug up was able to be used in the airplane. And you can imagine that the remnants of the airplane being buried for a number of years, there was not much that we were able to deploy in the restoration, but through the collection of parts that we have and what Warren and Bruce have accumulated, Paul and Jack, we were able to build up an airplane where what you see in front of you, there's a massive number of original North American parts on this airplane. And I think it's just a real testament to the people throughout the factories of World War II that those parts, you know, there were parts, major parts of this airplane that still had the original North American tags on them, and we were able to put them to good use and bring an airplane back into the sky. And it is just a great honor for us to see those parts go and fly on an airplane that's that the story beyond the airplane is as beautiful as the airplane.
How long a restoration? How long did the process take?
It took us probably about 4 years. There was a passing of the torch from Paul and Jack to Bruce, and so there was kind of an intermediate pause in there while the airplane was transferred. But yeah, it was a concerted and great effort by the team. A little close to the finish line for us. We would have liked to have had it done sooner than Thursday last week, but Warren had nice things to say about the way it flew out of the gate, and that's a real tip of the hat to our team who worked really hard to get us across the finish line.
But what number Mustang is this for Mark Tisler?
Mark should answer that question, but I think it's probably number 15.
You've restored 15 Mustangs.
Mark has. I think
Okay.
this is my 10th or 11th.
Okay.
And Air Corps, we've done. I think this is the fifth or sixth airplane for Bruce and Warren, and yeah, what a wonderful partnership it has been.
Where's it going to live now? What are you going to do with it?
It's going to be homed at the Dakota Territory Air Museum, and it's not, just like all of our planes that we've restored and stuff, they're not, hangar queens. We fly them at air shows, bring them to veterans events, and we try to bring things to Oshkosh every year. And like we're going to be flying Bonnie, their P-47, again in the air show this afternoon and stuff. And because that's another thing. It's like these planes can't do what they're meant to do unless people see them and see them flying. And so that's what we're committed to. But Dakota Territory Museum up in Minot is where this thing's going to sleep at night.
Okay.
Yeah. So as a pilot, the delivery flight from Bemidji to here on, and I don't know who else flew in here Sunday afternoon, but it was a dumpster fire. I mean, it was with the smoke.
Yeah,
almost literally with the smoke and everything else.
Yeah. But anyway, I was. This has got nothing to do with probably with Shillelagh or anything else, but I was flying Shillelagh, and I was in a flight of 5 fighters, and there was a Lockheed P-38 from Red Bull, Bruce's P-47 Bonnie, Walt Bow's Bearcat, and Whitney Beck's Corsair, and Shillelagh. So you 5 airplanes, each from a different manufacturer from World War II. I think the only fighter that was missing was a Curtiss in there, but it was so cool for me after, I mean, this isn't, I've been at it for a while, but to look off the wing and see that lineup of airplanes out there was absolutely amazing. And, obviously this airplane's amazing too, so.
Yeah, I compliment you all. The motto here at Warbirds is keep them flying. That's what you're doing.
Yeah.
And yeah, I can only imagine to look out on your wing and see all the manufacturers out there and struggling to land here also. And I take it
we didn't get here the first time. We ended up turning our go back to Wapaka. So,
I was afraid you were going to tell me that. But yeah, it is. We're going to end up doing a walk around on this thing, but I don't know if I want to start early or not. You guys can see what, hey, it's got a bomb under this wing, but on the other wing, there's something else. Who would like to discuss what's on that other wing?
There you go.
There's a Beer Barrel Bombers you can look it up on your Go Gadget, whatever you got there and stuff. But it is a pretty interesting story, and we've used it for years now since our 75th anniversary of D-Day. After D-Day, they started, the RAF guys had a great idea. Let's haul beer into the boys and let them have a beer over there now that they're on the mainland. And so they started hauling beer in drop tanks. Well, it gave it kind of a funny taste, so they ended up switching over to the authentic wooden kegs and making and hanging them on the hard points of Spitfires and Mustangs, and going across the channel. And of course, you know, a soldier's not gonna not complain, so they started complaining about the beer being too warm. So they would climb to altitude and cool the beer off before they went in, and they were serving beer off of the wings of the airplanes to keep the morale up and everything else. And supposedly they pretty much emptied England of beer because they were hauling so much.
Good picture up there right now.
Check the picture.
Yeah. So
that's for real. That's on a Spitfire, of course. That's not on a Mustang, but nonetheless. Yeah,
you get the idea, though.
Yeah. That's for real.
We're doing root beer here. We're not doing beer, but it's, anyway, it's just, it gives you an idea why there's a keg on the other side of the airplane, just to kind of commemorate that whole operation, too. We call it ale from above or beer before battle.
So as we get ready to do the walk around, I just want to ask one more question to whoever wants to answer it. So we started earlier today with another session with 2 D models in here. So for those that are unindoctrinated or not super familiar with the P-51 model series, just hit a quick bit of the highlights, and then I'd love to hear from one of the pilots on the flying differences, because I heard they're significantly different with some different instabilities and things between the B model and the D model.
So, who first? You're looking for
whoever wants to chime in. This is open to whoever wants to get there. I'm ambushing you all.
You're the old guy, Warren. Come on.
Yeah, I'm probably the flight characteristic guy. So one of the differences between a BC and a D are the canted leading edges because of the gear system, and they were able to make the gear uplocks and gear uplocks a little more robust, but they had to extend the canted leading edge out a few inches to make that. So if you're really sharp on Mustangs, you'll notice that. The other thing that's different between the wings is the recessed gun ports on the BCs were large recesses in the wing, and that really changed the flight characteristics and the fact that the airplanes stall at a slightly higher speed. So you come down final probably 10 mile an hour faster in a BC than you do in a D, which you wouldn't think because the D is a little heavier than the BC. But anyway, that's part of the aerodynamic difference. The other part of the aerodynamic difference is the Razorback on these airplanes. The reason they raced them in the Bendix races and everywhere else is because the Razorback airplanes, the Mustangs, were about 15 to 20 mile an hour faster than a bubble top airplane. And the reason for the bubble was the visibility, obviously. Which comes into another case of when you see somebody taxiing in one of these, they don't see you. You can't see out of this airplane taxiing because you can't open the canopy on the ground, and you can slide the windows back a little ways, but you can't get your head out the window. So you see them S-turning pretty radically at slow speeds. That's why that is. We were able on Thunderbird to put a camera in the wheel well, and it's a Garmin drive camera, and I use my little phone up there on the dash so I can see in front. And the main reason for that is Oshkosh, because the taxiways are narrow and there's scooters everywhere and people everywhere. And the first time I brought Loeb's Hope in here, I was holding my phone out the side of the window, watching my phone, and I was worried about it blowing out of my hand. So I went, I should put a camera in the next one. But anyway, so flying characteristics without the dorsal fin and things, it's a little less yaw stability in there, and it's just they're very similar airplanes, but those differences that I just described are the main differences.
Now, I appreciate you taking the time for that. I think it's about time to do the walk around. What do you
think?
I
want to talk
question?
a little bit about Patrick and your dad, and describe to us. I want to know more about the man. Okay.
Well, wait. First of all, you got to talk about the resentment about how many times your dad flew this plane, and Dahlberg takes it up and gets it shot down right off the bat one time.
Look,
what?
Look,
what's that all about?
Every time Ken went out, I said, Ken, don't put a scratch in it. You know, he just had it painted and whatnot. No. He flew 50 missions before he rotated back to the United States, and he was getting ready to go over to Japan. His older brother helped him out there. They sent him to Los Alamos, New Mexico as a machinist to work on some project there. It was rather timely. But the 353rd was part of the 354th Fighter Group. And it was the first group to receive the Mustangs, the brand new Mustangs, the new plane. Hence, they were called the Pioneer Group. When he joined the Army, it was 1939. He was 17 years old. He lied about his age, and he went in as an enlisted man. And then the opportunity came up after Pearl Harbor to sign up for the cadet flight training school. And that was quite, an eclectic group. I mean, these people, these fellows came from all walks of life. The Depression, had been going on, and there were some fellows that already had some flying experience. For my dad, it was like the first time he was in an airplane when he joined the Army. He started out with his training in Yuma, Arizona. They were flying in these Stearmen that you probably see a couple of them behind you. And they went over to the T6s, and then ultimately they were in the P-39s. And there's a picture. I don't know if you've seen the artwork around the Shillelagh with the storyboards or whatnot, but if you get a chance, take a look. And there's a picture of he and his comrades. There's like 27 pilots in this group, and they had just finished their gunnery and bombing training at Tonopah, Nevada. And it was very striking to me, because on the back of it, he has this photograph at home. It's an 8x10, a little bit wrinkled, but on the back he'd written the names of his classmates from that original training group, and there would be a notation by each name. And if I remember correctly, there were 18 of the 27 didn't return from their missions. I think 5 were killed in action that he noted down. There were like 8 that were missing in action. There were about 5 of them that became POWs. And there was one fellow in the particular who was missing for 5 months. And as it turns out, after he got shot down, he was fighting with the Maquis, or the French resistance. So these guys we alluded to before, really were the greatest generation. You can see on their faces, these young guys, all in their 20s, and just, enthusiastic, ready for action, and, God bless them. And God bless, the legacy that, all of you are preserving with the restorations of these fine airplanes. And it's so important that future generations know about that generation and what happened. And I can't think of anything that can relate the story better than seeing a living history, like we are here.
Well, I just have to say, too, that we still got a pretty good generation out there right now. I think this is, day 11 of dropping bombs on Iran out there. And with me saying that, I failed to do this morning, and it really bothers me right now. But I want to say thanks to the veterans. So veterans out in the crowd right now, please stand up. I want to give a round of applause. So all you vets out there.
Yeah, if I can butt in for a second, just to add to that, to tell these stories and hear what these guys went through and what they accomplished is for everyone to understand that since World War II, we've had so many other veterans go through experiences and they put themselves out for our country and so on. And they've all got stories too. They've all got sacrifices they've made, and we should respect them, and we should ask them for their stories too, because by doing this, hopefully, I want to make sure we're honoring all the generations that you mentioned. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
And I have at our museum up there, when somebody asks me what these airplanes represent, and I say we're we're honoring all of our veterans from the Revolutionary War to tomorrow.
Yep.
Yeah.
Everybody that's
Yep.
had done that. So it's 250 years of this country, and it's been a fight for liberty from day one, and it continues to be. And I agree with Bruce. Thank you to all of them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you. All right, what do you think? Time for a quick walk around here?
Yeah, absolutely. Eric,
and
you
let-
want to come up and walk us around? And there's lots of distinct markings on this aircraft. So, you know, we already talked about how the restoration was done to be period correct and not showroom plus quality. And the reasoning behind that. But can you talk a little bit as you're doing the walk around, not just about the airplane, but about why the markings are on it and what they mean?
Yeah, I'll have Eric Kokoff come down. Here's Eric Kokoff. I'll answer the question about the cow because that's the #1 question we've gotten displaying the airplane. Why's it got a cow painted on for a kill marking? And there was a young pilot that taken the airplane out and he hadn't done anything. And I think the commander or the squadron leader said to him, "You better come back with some evidence that you actually did something." And so they screened the gun camera footage, and he had taken out a locomotive and hit a cow on the strafing run. And so when he came out, the crew chief had painted kill marking of a cow on the side. So I'll hand it to Eric. He can talk through some of the ethos of the restoration. We'll kind of tag team and take some questions on it.
Is there any specific questions you want to start with? Or
Not yet.
just-
No, just
No.
unless you got something.
No, just
Okay.
tell us the
Yeah.
story.
So first thing I would say is that there is no one person that can restore one of these airplanes, okay? So we have several people in our shop from draftsmen, CAD designers, engineers, fabricators, restorers, mechanics, and it takes every one of them, and it's an entire team. We have over 80 people now at Air Corps doing different things like that, and it's an orchestration of people. These are massive restorations with tens of thousands of parts, and it takes a lot of people that are reproducing this. So this particular restoration, it was touched on a little bit earlier that we really wanted to honor that photo. I don't know if they can get it up on the screen of Ken on the wing when the airplane is war-weary. And we really wanted to recreate that. And a lot of times that's very difficult to do that, to recreate wear and tear and without physically damaging the airplane. Of course, we didn't want to do that. But I think we did a pretty good job of representing that. And you can see there's things, not only on the invasion stripes.
There's the picture
There we
up there,
go.
brother.
How they're hand painted and they skipped over in between the P. And you can see on the aircraft markings there, the FTP, how there's a little bit of overspray. I mean, these guys were out in the field doing their best, going as quickly as they could. They had only literally hours to apply thousands of invasion stripe markings, right? And everybody on the airfield was participating in doing that, so they did their best. If you look close, there's drips in the paint because that was the reality of what happened. And but as far as the core of the airplane, of course, we restored it to just exactly the way the North American specifications and drawings call out. And as Eric Trueblood mentioned earlier, this particular airplane has many large, major new old stock assemblies from a P-51B, which are extremely rare.
How do you chip it? I mean, it looks like, it's not like you take an ice pick or something.
Yeah, one of the guys, Aaron Prince, I'd like to call him out. He really wasn't able to be here this week, but he poured a lot of his heart into this airplane and the reproduction of those markings, and he figured out a way to do it with tape, so that we tried some different techniques, and he came out with that way of doing it, and even you can see the powder exhaust from the guns around the gun barrels. We applied that, and
How about the bomb?
yeah, the bombs these are reproduction 500-pound bombs, which are similar to what you can see in some of the pictures of the airplanes that they operated it with. A little difference between the BC model and the D model. Again, we were talking about that. The bomb racks are different. So on this airplane, when they pulled the bomb lever, both bombs were released. On the D model, it's electrically operated, a little fancier. Someone earlier this week asked about the gun sight and the operation. There is a lighted gun sight up there, but it's not a gyro-operated gun sight like the D model had. So the D model had a gun sight that would actually lead for the pilot. They would dial in the wingspan of the airplane and the range, and that's actually what was different about the throttle control. That was actually controlling the gun sight. And the B's and C's and the A's, it was an earlier, more primitive sight. It's interesting to me that with that lighted sight that they actually still put a bead and crosshairs, iron sights on the airplane as well for backup. And I don't know if it was this way during World War II, but we cannot keep the bulbs lit. We have new old stock original light bulbs, and they seem to only last for a short time. And there's actually spares in the compartment there, but they don't last very long. But it is fun to see that. But yeah, lots of work in this airplane. Rivets, we get that question a lot. The story on the rivets, we don't know why there's blue rivets on the airplane, but there's actually 3 different color rivets if you look close.
And that's the way it really was.
And that's the way it really was. We have lots of new old stock original parts and parts that, when we've stripped the paint and the primer off, we see those rivets. There's no difference in the hole size. It's very random. You'll see it. If you look close in pictures, you can see those rivets, the classic picture of the pilot in the cockpit. If you look close, you can see those different color rivets. We see that on we can see it on the Thunderbolt as well. If anybody ever has documentation on that, we would love to see that.
Anybody know anything about rivets?
Question a lot of people have had that we can't really answer, but we know that's how it was, and so we reproduced it in that same manner. The faded lines that you see, those are spot welding lines. So when we spot weld, there's an acid that has to be applied to the aluminum prior to spot welding, and that actually etches it and kind of gives it that look. So it was like like hair gel consistency. So they would brush it on with a brush and then quickly rinse it off, and then apply the spot welds. So that's what kind of those ghost lines that you see. You can really see them on the Thunderbolt as well, and other Mustangs. You can see how there's kind of yellow zinc chromate applied under the stainless steel. One of the specifications North American called out for was when stainless steel was applied on top of aluminum, you were required to put a primer in between. Well, they would just quickly brush that primer in because it was all function and no fashion. So you can see we kind of left that around the edge as they would have, and we've seen on original parts.
So basically you're saying there's nothing by accident on this airplane.
There is nothing by accident.
Yeah, so everything that you see out here is intentional.
Yes.
To recreate the way it was. And I applaud you. I think it's great. I think I would rather see an airplane like this than just, nothing but, a shiny. Yeah, shiny airplanes are pretty, but this is how it really flew.
And every restoration we've done, we've learned something new, right? Mm-hmm. There's always more mysteries to uncover, and that's part of, for us in our shop, Warren gets to fly the airplane, and Chuck gets to share, the history of the pilots and the operators. We live in the restoration shop. We kind of live in the world of the factory workers and the people in the home front that was building these airplanes, and it's phenomenal. 15,000 of these airplanes were built in 3.5 years. Wow. I mean, unbelievable. By people mostly who had never touched an airplane before, or many never even seen an airplane fly before, and they found themselves in the factory building airplanes and building airplanes at an unbelievable rate. And so those little details are very fun for us as restorers to share and stories to tell.
Do you do your own engines, or is that?
We do not. We maintain engines, of course, but the Merlin engine and the Allison and some of the Pratt & Whitney and Wrights that you see around here, they have nearly as many parts in them as the airframe does. And it's really a whole nother operation and a world of engine restoration and rebuild and repair, and takes a whole nother set of expertise and specialty and facilities and all those things to do that.
Jane 6 this morning had a Roush engine in it. Is this?
Sure. This would be a vintage V12's engine, yeah. So that's up to the customer and who they to use as an engine overhaul shop. So
Okay, understand.
Yeah.
All right, we're running out of time. Should I
Well,
cut them
I have
off
one
at this
question
point?
for
Oh,
Eric.
go ahead, Bruce.
Eric, is it true that some of your team suggested the best way to sort of age the plane was to run it through a few rainstorms?
Yeah, we said, hey, Warren, we got this great idea for patina. We're going to fly it through a rainstorm, and then we're going to spray mud and hydraulic fluid and oil and scratch it with our Zeus tools. What do you think? And Warren choked. Didn't tell Bruce because he thought if he even brought it up, Bruce would take his head. No, we talked about it, and we had to find a realistic balance. But yeah.
I think you did a fantastic job. It really looks period correct, and it's the amount of time and effort to make it look like this is really probably underappreciated because it's not easy. Like you said, everything was intentional.
I would agree.
With that, let's go to the audience.
Anything more you guys need to say before we go to questions? If not, then we're going to open it up to some questions out here. Go ahead. Chuck. Oh, wait. We'll give you a mic.
Eric can tell you who signed. We got somebody special to sign the throttle quadrant.
Yeah, let's see. Is it the throttle quadrant or the switch
center
panel?
box?
I think it's the center box switch panel. But
I think it's
both of
yeah.
them. Yeah, Bud Anderson was able to sign those for us before he passed away, and so it's another tribute to World War II pilots. We love to do that when we can get.
You've seen the statue.
So.
You've seen the statue?
Yes.
Yeah, we dedicated that on Tuesday.
Yes.
So, yep, great guy. All right, let's go. Questions out there. Okay, there's one right up front.
What is the current supply of vintage Merlin engine parts and Merlin engines, and what reproductions are being done in the category?
Want me to? Well, so the real supply shortage is becoming people that are interested in doing this work and learning this work, and people passing on the skill of restoring. So there's actually a lot of engine cores left and engine parts. Propellers are very difficult to find and becoming more difficult. But I usually tell people the reality of it is we can reproduce anything. What we really need is the talent and the skill. So I would encourage all of you to encourage your kids and your family and the future to take an interest in hands-on restoration, rebuilding, maintenance, any kind of aircraft skill. There's a shortage of that, and that's what we're concerned about the most.
Okay, thank you. Other questions? Anybody out there got anything more to ask these guys? We got some local experts here for sure, and yeah. If not, I got to say thank you again. It's a tremendously interesting airplane, and yeah, it sounds like it's going to be around for a long time. And the good news is we've been able to honor a couple pilots who flew this thing. And the small world to have Max out there in France going, oh yeah, hey, that's the chateau, that's the castle where this airplane was. And again, those kinds of stories are the things that we're trying to remember. To say, oh yeah, hey, that happened a long time ago, but now we brought it back to life. Now it's been documented also, which is really good news.
Yeah, I really just want to encourage you all as we get done here, come up, talk to these folks, and take a look at some of those details that Eric was talking about. You can see it from back there, but as you come up, you can really get an appreciation for the detail that went into this. And it looks like we do have one more question. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to thank you for actually bringing back an airplane that looks like it really did. I flew Navy airplanes off of carriers, and those airplanes were never pretty. They were to me. They weren't like the Air Force ones. And it's just, you don't get the sense of really what it was like. No offense to the beautiful polished P-51s, but you don't really get the sense of what it was like until you see an airplane like that. So thank you so much, and hope to see more like that.
Cool.
Yeah, what a great link into what I was talking about. So again, as we finish up, come check out the airplane, talk to these individuals if you have any questions that you weren't willing to or didn't want to ask to the larger group. And just thanks for coming out and taking an interest, because really what this is all about is keeping these airplanes flying to tell the story. So the stories of these men and women and what they did to protect freedom and for Europe and for the United States doesn't get lost to time. The airplanes are a vehicle to keep those stories alive. So thank you for being here and continuing to tell those stories.
And tomorrow, by the way, tomorrow morning we've got a very interesting program. We've got a MiG-29 that you probably saw if you were here yesterday, landed, and an F-5. And
Cool.
The interesting part here is the MiG-29 belongs to our current NASA administrator, Jared Isaacman. So Jared Isaacman will be here, and I'm going to take the morning off because I passed it on to Connie. Connie's going to be the moderator for Jared Isaacman tomorrow morning. And then I'm trying to think tomorrow afternoon, I think we've got Joe Peterburs. Yep. So if you want to see a 102-year-old P-51 pilot who's going to talk about his experiences not in World War II, but in Korea, Joe Peterburs is going to be here tomorrow afternoon. So, so those are the couple shows to look forward to. Thank you again for being here. Thank you, gentlemen, for doing what you do. And see you all tomorrow, I hope. Thank you.
Thank you.
Inspired by the veterans in my family, I started the Gary Sinise Foundation in June of 2011. It has been my honor to support and uplift our nation's defenders, our active duty service members, first responders, veterans, and the families who sacrifice alongside them. This has all been possible thanks to our incredible supporters. I am grateful to each and every one of you for your generosity. You help us to bring hope and healing to so many. To all of you, and to our nation's heroes who are serving, have served, and to your families, thank you. To learn more, visit GarySiniseFoundation.org.
"40 years ago, a community came together with a shared purpose: to train better, fly smarter, and make aviation safer. From humble beginnings to a worldwide network, the North American Trainer Association has shaped generations of pilots and instructors. Flying is a discipline. It's the early mornings, the checklists repeated, the lessons learned again and again until precision becomes instinct. And safety? Safety is an attitude, a mindset carried into every decision, every flight, every generation we train. For 40 years, the North American Trainer Association has stood for excellence, not just in how we fly, but in how we think, prepare, and lead. Because in aviation, discipline builds skill, and attitude saves lives. Here's to 40 years of commitment, and to the future we'll keep shaping together.
The name Jane is actually the name of his wife. Making it exactly how it was flown by actually Rick Marshall, who was the AA Spider.
Keeping these airplanes flying preserves stories that will no longer be told by the greatest generation. Through restorations and flying, we were able to continue their legacy and remember their sacrifices. And that's really the most important thing when you're flying these airplanes. When you go somewhere, you have the responsibility to share with people what they did, and that these aren't just airplanes, they help save our freedom.
It's hard to imagine a more podcast-worthy aviator than Robert Hoot Gibson. He's a degreed aeronautical engineer, a naval aviator with 300-plus combat missions, graduate Top Gun, graduate Naval Test Pilot School, NASA astronaut commander with 5 space shuttle missions, chief NASA astronaut, Southwest Airlines captain, world champion unlimited class air race champion. A new season of Hoot's Hangar, the exclusive podcast produced in Hoot's home studio, will shortly be in production. In this series, Hoot and an endless string of compelling guests cover all things aero combat flying, space travel, air racing, aircraft design and performance, high-profile accident investigations, RC modeling, home building, and more. Join Hoot Gibson and his guests in Hoot's Hangar, the most compelling podcast in aerospace. Now, get unlimited access to all episodes for less than a trip to the coffee bar. Just $9.95 a year. Just go to airtoairtv.com to gain access and subscribe.
Buck 1, Warhawk 40, Second has bragged. Warhawk 40, Fox 1, have you loud and clear. Enemy vehicle, IVL, Blue Mountain runway.
As much as I'm looking forward to having a successful mission, cleaning all this up and getting back, like, it's kind of sad that this could be the last time that these guns ever fire again.
This side, hot, ready to go. That side is moments away from all 6 ripping down range.
Having freeze hot. MSL, 5, vehicle convoy, 6, target location, Blue Mountain runway, 7. contact heading 200. Contact heading 200, copy all. Here, arm and hot.
I guess I was fairly apprehensive the whole time that I was flying in combat. And I guess there's good reason to feel that way. I'm there to cause a lot of damage and a lot of harm, and therefore they would like to damage me. And I was 25 years old at that time. Top Gun was really a thrill. I must have done well in actual combat because at the time I was just a lieutenant junior grade, which is a first lieutenant in the Air Force. And so I may have been the very first lieutenant junior grade to go through Top Gun. STS-27 was my third launch, and it was only the second launch after the Challenger accident. Well, I will never forget, we maneuvered the arm, and Mike Mullane was my arm operator, so he moved the arm over there, and we brought up the television image of the right wing, and I looked at what I was seeing, and I said to myself, we are gonna die. Well, there's a lot of piloting that goes into it, a tremendous amount of piloting that goes into it, because you're going to wind up passing other airplanes. You're going to get in a duel with another airplane that's fairly closely matched. So there's a ton of satisfaction from doing that. And hey, let's just talk about the racing itself. It's fun to fly low, but it's dangerous.
In 1937, Japan began a war of conquest to gain control of China's vast natural resources. Japan needed them to supply its planned conquest of the entire Pacific region. By 1941, estimates are some 1 million Japanese ground troops were committed to this effort, and the Imperial Air Force had begun a merciless campaign of indiscriminate bombings of Chinese cities and civilian centers. The loss of innocent life and suffering was incalculable. China's Air Force was all but non-existent. There was no way to defend the cities. But in 1941, Claire Chennault, a retired U.S. Army Air Corps officer consulting with the Chinese Republic, convinced President Roosevelt to let him recruit and supply a volunteer force of U.S. pilots to defend China's skies. The legendary American volunteer group, Flying Tigers were born. This year marks the 85th anniversary of the AVG Flying Tigers. Perhaps you've been concerned with the failure of our schools to teach the history of World War II, the event that literally shaped the world we now live in. Air-to-air-TV.com is a growing archive of World War II history. With this special offer, you can give the gift of history to a student or anyone who will value it for less than a trip to the coffee shop. Just go to air-to-air-TV.com to gain access and to give the gift of knowledge.
At JetGlo, we believe an aircraft is more than aluminum, paint, and rivets. It carries stories. Stories of sacrifice, stories of service, stories of the men and women who stepped forward when our country needed them the most. As a veteran myself, I understand that these aircraft are not just museum pieces. They are flying reminders of the courage, skill, and sacrifice of generations before us. That is why Warbirds in Review matters. Every time one of these machines starts, taxis, and takes to the sky, history becomes real again, not just for pilots, not just for veterans, but for families, young people, and the future generations who need to see it, hear it, and feel it. At JetGlo, we are proud to support the Warbird community, aircraft owners, operators, and the people who work so hard to keep these aircraft flying. We specialize in aviation-only detailing, aircraft appearance and preservation care, bright work polishing, window restoration, ceramic coatings, and condition maintenance, because preserving an aircraft's appearance is part of preserving its legacy. JetGlo is based right here in Oshkosh, and we are proud to support Warbirds in Review. To every veteran, restorer, crew chief, pilot, and volunteer who keeps history alive, thank you. JetGlo is proud to stand with you, because every flight deserves a JetGlo.